Hi, my name is Moshe Kindler, and I'm the publisher of The Jewish Link,
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kratz. I'm editor of The Jewish Link.
and you're on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast.
Thank you for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast today. This is really exciting because this is a real pitch meeting, which is what we do at the Jewish Link when we have an article that's in development. So thank you for being with us, Rabbi Yisrael Rothwachs, Dean of SINAI Schools, and Judi Karp, Associate Dean of SINAI Schools. So really glad you're here.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit? I know the topic is Maor High School, but could you perhaps either one of you start and tell us a little bit about what brought you here today and why this time, this specific, like at the moment this podcast is hitting, why this podcast is relevant to our readers?
Yeah, I would start by saying that, SINAI has been around for 40 years, and thank God we have grown and been able to impact the lives of thousands of students. But sometimes when people think about SINAI, they think about SINAI in relation to the experience that they've had. Their neighbor's son went to SINAI and he has this kind of disability, or my niece went to SINAI and she has this type of profile. And it is often that we find that people don't appreciate the breadth of what we do. And specifically, our Maor High School, which is at the Kushner Yeshiva High School in Livingston, is a high school that we've had for about 20 years that I think sometimes is, falls through the cracks. People don't know that we're there and that the resources are there. And the truth is that it's a real gem in our community. Specifically when we're talking about, there's been discussion in our community for years, and increasingly so, about high school acceptances, about the process, about potentially not being enough room in Bergen County or surrounding areas in the high schools that exist. And those students that sometimes, unfortunately, are those who kind of get left behind, or those students who may not be the strongest students. And we want people to know that there's a really great option for so many of these students in our school. So that's the word we're trying to get out.
Right.
And we're hoping that that people will learn to appreciate what it is that we have to offer there.
Right. So Maor High School at Kushner is like all of the SINAI schools, like all of the 8 SINAI schools, is a high school within a high school, or a school within a school.
Yes.
And what is being done at Maor specifically, I understand that these are college-bound students, people who are heading to their year in Israel, for example. They're maybe going to serve in the IDF. They've got plans. They're serious students, but they may struggle in one or another way. Can you share maybe some of those kinds of struggles?
Sure. So some of our students may have academic struggles, students with specific learning disabilities. We also have students who may need some support socially, emotionally, certainly organization, what we call executive function.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of going to high school is really finding who you are and figuring out how to get what you need in a socially appropriate way.
Right.
So teaching our young people to self-advocate, to become more independent at getting what they need, and being able to approach key players like teachers when they need something done differently. They need an extension for a deadline, for example. So really looking at kind of fine-tuning the skills that students need to help them be successful in a professional career someday.
Okay. So that's really interesting. It's a probably a very common experience where someone excels in perhaps English or science or math. I know I have like a top science kid in my house, but he or she, I'm not going to say who it is, may struggle in a couple of other ways, like a top math, top science. But would that be an option where there might be in school opportunities for therapy during the high school day Is that built into the Maor curriculum?
So both of the needs you're describing fit into a Maor day.
Okay.
Because the students whose high level math could conceivably be in a math class with Kushner kids.
Right.
We've had kids in very high level classes, award-winning kids in some of these situations. But at the same time, they may need those executive function, organizational skills, which can be built in to the classes that they have at Maor, or they may need something like extra language to work on pragmatic or self-advocacy skills that could be built into the Maor day as well, the students' day.
Right. So I guess one of the obvious questions, I guess we would say, about how this really is a model for success for getting a child of age 14 or 15 to be on the track to head to college. But I guess the obvious questions is, why don't more of our students in Bergen County know about it right away? And how can we help you, I guess? Because we know that the students coming out of Kushner do great things, all of them. So can you talk about what you're trying to do maybe to get the word out?
Sure. I think that the reason why not so many people know about it is because it's human nature for us to want our kids to just be going along the same route and the same trajectory as their peers. And so if everybody else that my kid hangs out with is going to school X, I want my child to go to school X as well. And the truth is that all of our schools in the Bergen County community, and certainly in larger tri-state area, have been doing more and more year after year to provide support for children who need different kinds of support. And so they're catching kids and really serving well kids that they hadn't, certainly, a decade or two ago, but even 5, 4, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are doing a better job at that. But there are still children whose needs are significant, whether the academic gap is so wide, whether the executive functioning, like Judi mentioned before, is really such a significant challenge. So, what we're offering is a really individualized instruction. And sometimes when we use the word individualized and we're talking about special education, people are thinking, pardon me, but, dumbed down, or they're thinking watered down, or it's too small of a group. My kid's not going to have a rich experience, academically and or socially. When we use the word individualized, it actually means the opposite. It means we're thinking about the whole child, about all that impacts them, not just academically, but socially, emotionally, spiritually, and making sure that what we're offering this child is something that will help them, strive and continue to grow in each of those areas. And so we have children I would say the vast majority of our students at Maor are students who are academically capable and who are driven. And when they graduate from Maor, take very similar paths to their peers. They're going to gap year programs, yeshivot and seminaries in Israel for a year or two or more. We have students who have enlisted in Sahel, and some who are there right now. Wow. We have students who then come back and go to college, and so it's a program that really gets you set up in a very similar way that the other schools do. But in my opinion, if you spend 4 years in a school like ours, you're coming out with skills, you're coming out with confidence. You're not always trying to catch up and be part of a school program that doesn't really fit you. And perhaps more importantly than all of that, is like a real understanding of who I am as a learner. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that Judi mentioned before, advocating and appreciating my own challenges and strengths, and what do I do that, and where do I go? And so when our kids leave, there's a sense of confidence in themselves and in their plan going forward.
That's amazing. It sounds like it's more support than a resource room environment in a high school, with a lot of individualized support, and also but I guess also with making sure that every part of the day is covered, whether it's davening or tefillah or I don't know, Lamudei Kodesh, in addition to the secular subjects. All of them are sort of scrutinized by your team as a child enters. And another question I wanted to ask at the same time: do you have students who come in only in 9th grade, or do you also accept transfer students at 10th grade or later?
We do accept transfer students later on, certainly. I wanted to say that I think it's important also to recognize that one of the beauties and strengths of this program has to do with the integration with Kushner.
Right.
And what a fabulous partner school Kushner has always been to Sinai and continues to be. So for a Maor student from 9th grade, day one, when they have icebreakers at orientation, the Maor students are part of those icebreakers with the Kushner kids.
Right.
When there's a Shabbaton, when there are teams, when there are plays, sports, clubs, all of those opportunities
Right.
are available to the Maor students, and that gives them a chance socially to integrate with the Kushner kids as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
I actually would just add on that. One of my favorite stories is that our first year of Maor at Kushner, I had the privilege of directing the school at the time. And 2-3 weeks into the school year, one of the Kushner administrators, David Statauer, came over to me and said, "Is there anything I can do for you? Recommend some news, I can help you understand the schedule better," I don't know, whatever it was, being very sweet and supportive. Any surprises? So I said to her, I'm actually so forward, because I was expecting, with the new kids on the block here, and our kids, are in different classes for some of their classes. They're new to the school building, and I figured that it would be, not that there would be bullying, chas v'shalom, but that it would be, awkward. And it's so not. The kids are so integrated and welcomed and embraced in such warmth. And I'm just surprised. And she said to me, without skipping a beat, she said, "Oh, I'm not surprised at all, because I don't know the percentage. 95% of the kids in Kushner High School grew up in Kushner Elementary and Middle School with Sinai by their side."
Right.
And there's a sense of sensitivity and warmth and inclusion. And there are lots of different kinds of people who need different things in different classes. And it just is.
Yeah.
And so
Beautiful.
now you have kids in the high school who have grown up in that wonderful, type of school community.
Right.
That it was just so natural for our kids to be there. And our kids really do feel like that. We have kids who are the captains of the wrestling team,
Right.
who are the stars of the play, who give back and participate in the larger school community in so many ways. It really is seamless.
Right. That's amazing. It actually it surprises me that it took me 10 minutes to get to this point where we have to talk about what is great about Sinai itself and why the kids who are not in Sinai, but who are a student in a partner school, why they benefit from Sinai's existence. And I know last year, this was a very highlighted point at last year's dinner. Maybe you can share a little bit about that experience and just how powerful it is. It actually gives me chills thinking about it.
Right. So it starts at the top with Rabbi Rubin. It trickles down through all of his principles. And it is remarkable how the principals, I work, with Rabbi Srolowitz in the lower school, who just, as soon as he's ordering T-shirts for Lag BaOmer or something, we get an email the same day saying, what sizes are your kids, what grades, what colors. They think of our kids as part of their school, which you can't teach that. Either you feel that, you could teach it, but
it's better if it's already there.
It's better if it's natural.
Right.
And for the Kushner administrative team, Howard Plotzker. I mean, we've just been such an integral part of so many. I went to Poland with the Kushner 12th graders a number of years ago. We had Maor kids who were going. We had Maor parents who were going. And nobody said, you sit here, you sit here. It was just, we were all part of the same experience,
Right.
in a very natural, beautiful way.
Right.
And I would just add to that it's really is a symbiotic relationship. I think that from the outside, people might assume that we are the Sinai, our staff, our students are the recipients of all that Kushner at every one of our partner schools is affording in terms of our opportunities for us. But the truth is we try very hard to be giving back, and that there are many ways that we are supportive of our partner schools, where we collaborate, where we talk curriculum, where we offer professional development to them, where even sometimes some of their students come to our classes when there's a specific need. And so it really is, really one integrated family.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned the wrestling team, which I remember also. There are some top performers on the wrestling team who happen to be in Maor. I think also basketball, maybe chess. Chess recently, I think we just printed this coming week, or it will come out later. But chess, just Kushner just wins everything in chess this year.
I saw
so
that.
they're doing really,
Yes.
really well. But the excitement of being a high school student, like a Maor student isn't giving up anything by being at Kushner
Exactly.
in the high school experience. They're
Exactly.
inside it. And also maybe we should mention, because Jill Kirsch is my close colleague, and I,
Mhm.
if I don't get 40 texts and emails from her once a day, I wonder, I have to call and say what's wrong. But Rabbi Richard Kirsch, who runs a number of things at Kushner, but I believe he's also head of the Israel Advocacy Committee. So he's the one taking everyone to Washington. He's the one heading off to, APAC's policy conferences or various things. And I believe the experience of a Maor student who is able to attend a conference like APAC, they can be there with Rabbi Kirsch, and Rabbi Kirsch is excited to welcome them and wants them there as
Right.
well. So there's no downside of a Maor day inside Kushner, because they're inside Kushner, right?
Exactly.
It's great. It's great to hear. Okay, so I know, let's talk about the hard question. Education for people with special needs may have different costs. Can we discuss that? Is that okay?
For sure. Let's talk about it. Really, it is more, it's no surprise that tuition is certainly more expensive, but we've been able to create a model where our parents are not being burdened by that high cost of tuition through fundraising and other creative ways. And so, we have families who are really on all points of the spectrum of the kind of socioeconomic spectrum,
Right.
And we have some kids who are coming from families where there might be a single mom who's holding out 3 jobs and and 5 of their kids, and that child can come to our school despite the fact that it is more expensive, because we've been able to create this infrastructure. So
That's great.
I'm glad that you asked, because
Right.
oftentimes I think less so over the years, but certainly, what we heard a lot, people were saying, I can't call SINAI because how am I going to be able to do that?
Right. The cost just knowing that there would be a cost higher than yeshiva.
Having an argument time with yeshiva tuition, so I think we're hearing it less and less, because I think word is getting out right now. We work with families and make it affordable. But that's I'm glad that you brought it up. It's an important point. People shouldn't hesitate because of that.
Right. Okay. So I mean, there are so many things that get a child to success. And so I guess with a situation in place like Maor at Kushner, and then with the backbone support system of SINAI, generally, which I know between Sam Fishman and Ariel and Abigail and all the staff who are pulling together and messaging the community about what Sinai is and what it does, the funding and fundraising is I think a priority for the community anyway, certainly in Bergen County, and also now as you've expanded to Riverdale and Queens, in Livingston and West Orange as well, because you've been there for 20 years. Was it one of the first partner schools?
It was our first.
The elementary school.
Over 40 years ago, we partnered with the Hebrew Youth Academy.
Okay.
And became
Right.
the Kushner Christian School, Joseph Kushner.
So it goes way back, right? And so the support that a Sinai contributor gives during the course of their year, can it be earmarked? Are there scholarships for the high school specifically? Are there any kinds of, I don't know, scholarship funds that we can talk about?
Yes, there are a number of scholarship funds. I don't want to leave any out.
Okay.
But come to our website at SINAIschools.org and easily see the different funds that are available. And yes, it can be earmarked towards a specific school.
Right. And I know just as a timestamp on this podcast, because people could be listening to this in a year or 2 years, this year you did not plan an annual dinner for Sinai. So that's 2024. And it's because of the war in Israel, I believe, and because of the massive diverted energy, I think, that everyone feels that they have to be, focusing more on Israel. But it doesn't mean that Sinai doesn't still have to exist. And it means that Sinai still needs to have the same level, if not more, support at home. And tzedakah, of course, does always begin at home. So can you tell me any kinds of activities you have planned other than this podcast, of course, which I'm sure is going to be very beneficial, but to get the word out about Sinai in a year when you're not having an annual dinner?
Yeah, we're trying through partners such as yourself and others to help get the word out. We'll be sending different kinds of communications to the community, not just our formal emails, letting people know about the campaign, but trying to give them a little bit of inspiration and chizuk at the same time, sharing stories of our alumni or current students, and that we have students who graduate from us and do such amazing things. All of our students do amazing things,
right.
But when people's frame of reference is going to Tzahal or impacting the community in such significant ways, the word that we're trying to get out, we're trying to inspire people especially in these times when the world is just upside down and our nation is in such pain, that we are impacting the world and we still need the community's support. We understand that, and rightfully so, that there's a priority in the community now that more than ever before to be supporting so many causes in Israel. But we can't allow Sinai or frankly any of the local organizations to suffer.
Right.
We need to continue that support.
Right. I remember personally, I think one of the first, before I was a writer for the Jewish Link, I was a donor to SINAI Schools. I don't know if you knew that.
Before you were
I don't know if
for the Jewish Link, you weren't
Just
born and then became a
shocker. I know, but I believe that. I mean, Sam and Abigail can check their records, but I believe I didn't work for the Jewish Link when I first, wrote that check, and I think it was because, and I think this speaks to Maor specifically as well. The story of the Münchenbergs was what brought me in, and my husband. And what we saw at that time was, how can a kid like this not go to day school? He has a Yiddish and neshama. Right. It was inconceivable that this kid could be anywhere else. And it's still I still see him around. I see his parents, and they don't know me. They don't know who I am. But I'm always that's what they're the ones who brought me into SINAI. And it's even, and I should say,
if you're listening, please give Elizabeth a call. She really likes
no,
it.
it's okay. Also, but also I knew you as well. So I would say I knew you before I worked at the Jewish Link, I think, as well. But, amazing organization. SINAI has to exist. SINAI has to be supported, and SINAI as a resource for parents looking for high schools for their children. It seems like Maor needs to be on their minds. Anything else you want to add? And websites you want to share about how people can check out Maor High School?
Sure. So our website is maorhighschool.org. You could certainly get information from there. Our fearless leader, director of Maor is Freya Stone. Her contact information is easily found there. And we'd be happy to partner with any parents in exploring whether this is the right place. To be clear, we don't accept every child to Maor or to any of our schools, and because we're very serious about the commitment that we have to child, and we want to make sure that the supports that we have in place, or perhaps that we can bring to bear and create for this child, is in place. So we are, I don't even want to use the word selective. We're deliberate, thoughtful about that process. But I would just hope that people out there would be open enough to know that, you know what, even though the truth is not all parents feel this way, but many parents, natural feeling to feel like I want my child to go along the same trajectory as other students. Our kids that come to Maor are all coming from special ed schools. Some are. Some are coming from mainstream schools where they got, enough support to be able to kind of get through. But now the gap is so wide that high school experience would be, typical high school experience would be really much too difficult. And so I hope that parents will call and have the conversation with us and come take a visit, tour, and see if this is something that might be a good fit for their child.
Sounds great. All right. Judi, any last parting words?
I hope that through this podcast or the article you have to write, that somewhere there's a child who we can help maximize who they are, that they don't have to go through a high school experience feeling like the bottom of the class or the lonely kid or the last kid picked for the team. That if we help one child through this podcast, then we've accomplished a lot.
Amazing.
So thank you for having us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.